Right now on the ground in the party is doing a ton of stuff. We are really full steam ahead on contest every race. As you know, the Republicans swept a lot of races, school board races, township board races, library board races, when we weren't paying attention. I mean, in the last 10, 15, 20 years. That's never happening again. We are organized. There's an organization at the federal level, and we're organized at the state level, but most importantly, because all politics is local, we're well organized at the county level to make sure that we know what races are open and where we will compete and to recruit the candidates. Yes, thank you, John. It's a lot of work and absolutely necessary. We're also working on campus outreach. We have WCC here. WCC, Dims, where are you guys? Where? Okay, see, I can see close with, you know how it is. Well, you don't because you're too young. And we have U of M Dems, Stella Camerlenga, and we are working with EMU Dems. So that's fantastic. We are already heavily on the voter guide development and endorsement process. Some of you know that we've had trouble getting the voter guide out on time in the past, and last cycle's endorsement process was just a little messy for a bunch of personnel reasons, but we are on it right now, starting now, to make sure that that voter guide hits your doorstep at the same time as your absentee ballot hits your doorstep. So that's going to be, thank you, John. That's super important. Tomorrow, we have the monthly potluck, the Washtenaw Alliance potluck, us and a bunch of other allies, a lot of Indivisibles, Clean Water Action, a number of other organizations. When we planned it last month, we were thinking about it last month, and thought, you know what, we need a break. Let's play games and crafts and stuff. And then, they shot Renee Good and Alex Preddy, and we said, okay, that we can't just have fun anymore. But we all know how exhausting, not this specific work, but how exhausting it is just to be alive in Trump's America. It is exhausting if you have any moral sense at all, any sense of outrage. It is exhausting. And especially since we have very, very, very little power in DC right now, bizarrely. But hopefully we will be changing that. But it is really important, and I call on everybody to attend to yourselves. We can't do everything in a day. It's not only okay to take a rest, it is necessary to take a rest. Take care of yourself. Okay, so that's a part of respecting each other and also respecting the work. So please do that. The MDP convention, the spring convention, where we members will choose our candidates for Attorney General and Secretary of State, and the State Board of Ed and University Regents. And Supreme Court. Yeah. We will be doing that in person. Excuse me. I should have had some water before I came up here, but no, on April 19th in Detroit. It is a long day, and next month at this time in this meeting, we're going to have the chair of the Michigan Democratic Party coming to give us an introduction to the convention, how it works, where you go, and so forth. So be sure to mark that on your calendars. And Sharon, where's Sharon? What's the deadline for membership to participate in that? March 20th. You have to join by March 20th in order to participate in that. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so go to our website. You'll see, join the party to participate in that convention no later than March 20th. Before that, on March 22nd, we have a mandated convention by the MDP in order to elect members to 3 committees that for the spring convention: credentialing, rules, and resolutions committees. You need to join next week to participate in that convention. All right? WashtenaWDems.org. Everybody, you can pull it up now. WashtenaWDems.org. Join. Just there's a right at the top. There's a join button. So you can participate in selecting the people for those committees, and also to consider resolutions. Some important resolutions about data centers, actually. So you want to do that. So join this week, or join right now. Okay, that's all the business I have right now, because I'm almost out of time, and we have a few people I want to bring up. Finn Boldenow, come on up. We have a few announcements from people. Finn is, what's your title? Communications Director for WCDP.
Hello, everyone. I'm hosting a protest on February 20th at 5 p.m. at the Federal Building downtown in Arbor. The socials are A2 Against ICE. Please go like that. Please go share that. It's on both Facebook and Instagram. We're working on another post yet today. But we're trying to bring together all of the high school walkouts that's been happening over the past several weeks. The college students and the college organizations at U of M and EMU, and all the great community organizations and politicians that are doing so much against ICE to like slow ICE right now. Thank you, guys. 5 p.m.
5 p.m. February 20th, 5 p.m. Finn is young enough that when I say 1 minute, he like takes it seriously. He tore through that. Yeah, very impressive, Finn. Okay, and then also I want Debbie's here, and I know she's got to run. Come on up. Yay, Debbie Dingle. And as I said before, we have Debbie Dingle to thank for everything. She has done everything we want her to do, and then some.
Thank you, everybody. And you got a lot of, I'm going to be fast. Washington's a shit show. I can't start this without commenting about what the president posted on social media on Thursday night, which was disgusting, reviling. And I have talked to my leadership about I have to talk to the Black Caucus and work with them, but I hope we will offer a resolution of censure on the floor of the House this week, which I called Hakeem and said we have to do. So I just have to say that to our brothers and sisters. And when it was taken down, but he will not retract or not apologize. It says everything there is, which we've known 1,000 different times about who this man is, sheer evil. Okay, then we passed the budget last week for all of the agencies except Homeland Security, which has ICE within it. We only authorized through Friday the 13th. And I'm going to look at you now. And so the rest of the agencies are funded. And I will say to you, because Democrats held together strong on the last government shutdown, some of the draconian things that they wanted to do, they were not able to do. And we were to get, I'm not where we need to be, but it was far from as bad as it could have been. Schumer and Hakeem have sent a letter to the President Thune Johnson and saying we must have comprehensive reform and guardrails for ICE. They must include mandatory body cameras. And by the way, don't buy the, Kristi Noem says they have body cameras in Minnesota and foul. We put money for body cameras in the big shitty bill, which I voted against, and could talk about that, but not going to today. And they haven't used it. Unless we mandate body cameras, I believe no false promise out of the White House or Washington on anything. We have a constitution that requires due process. We must have judicial warrants requirements For any person ICE arrests, detains, or does one of their horrific things to. And I want to say to you something else. You think you're not being tracked and followed. Anybody who writes me, I know I'm being watched, but so just know that. But do you know that somebody saw a story, a retiree saw a story of an immigrant that was a DACA child, had a job, had all the right legal documentations, paying taxes, and that they wanted to target and detain him. He went online, tracked the story, and wrote a letter and said, this is someone that should be protected, and the FBI showed up at his door. That's the America we're living in. So judicial warrant requirements, no masks, independent criminal and civil investigations, and roving and lawless patrols. I don't know why we have to demand this, because it's in the Constitution. No deportation or detention of American citizens. Explicit prohibition on the excessive use of force. No targeting. No going to houses of worship, hospitals, or schools. And racial profiling. And Kristi Noem needs to go. But that's still going to leave Steve Miller at the White House, and we can't impeach him, so we got to keep working on that. It's really, we got a lot of issues we're all worried about. We must speak up. We must speak out. And as I said on Thursday night in this very room, we also need to know that a lot of our neighbors are scared. Kids are afraid to go to school. People are not working because they're afraid if they go to work, they're going to be detained. They don't have money. They don't have income. We have to remember what the Bible teaches us about being neighbors. And their process is set up. Mira's got the numbers to call. Let's make sure if we see ICE, you're calling it. But let's also try to not add to the stress of misinformation right now, because we already have a very scared community. Thank you. I won't stop fighting. What am I doing this weekend?
But prayer official, you put together in 24 hours. This woman is incredible. Thank you.
Yes, she is.
Support you. We're all about to support the young.
You guys have, I have no idea all the things that Debbie does. She does have a YouTube channel. Well, she does. She has a YouTube channel that you can catch some of her appearances on media. She is everywhere all the time. Do you have a minute? Not you. You too, Annie. You're just standing next to Debbie. Do you want to answer any questions? Do you have a sec? I mean, I know you have to get out of here real quick. Cheryl has a question.
Thanks, Debbie, for all your work. Is there some way that somewhere out here in the democratic world that we can, all these things that come and at us, could we categorize them? When we hear things, is that a violation of the Constitution? Is that a federal policy? Was that an executive order? Just categorize this stuff so we'll know what we're dealing with. Because some of this stuff we don't need to really get too upset about if it's like just executive order, because that's going to be gone at the end of the term. But I just don't know. It's just so much coming. They need to be in some categories.
So I actually can't. I will not agree with you that you don't have to worry about executive orders. I mean, he's doing illegal executive orders that are doing great damage to people. I mean, one of the problems right now is that he's trying to create chaos. He's trying to wear us down. It's not even a crisis a day. It's a what's he done this hour? And there's so many things you don't know where to focus, and it keeps people from focusing. So right now, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, and I wanted her affordability is the number one issue on everybody's mind. And I'll talk about that again next month in the different buckets. This week, the Homeland Security budget expires on Friday. And if I have to guess, we Democrats, United States senators promise that they are walking and not going to undercut us. And they are there with us. The Homeland Security will be shut down. We will be in a government shutdown on that. Now, I want to say to you, if you're flying through an airport, thank the TSA workers because they're caught in the middle of this mess and they're not going to get paid again. And they're people that can't afford gas to get to work. They can't get food. Remember, TSA told us we couldn't do a food bank for them, but oh yeah, the president could take a plane from UAE. But TSA told the TSA workers that it was a gift if they took money. I mean, if they took food from a food bank and wouldn't allow them to do it. So we got to help categorize for people where to focus, but don't get tired, don't get worn down. What he wants you to do is to feel the chaos, and we're just not going to let that happen. This week, ICE. ICE.
So I think, okay. So I know that the ACLU released a report in December of 2025 about Fort Bliss in Texas, and it like details like sexual, physical, and mental torture of teenagers in Texas. And I think it's terrifying, and it's what is happening in facilities all over the US. Have you worked on anything, or are you planning anything that protects the humane conditions in ICE facilities?
So this is what we're all of the members of the Democratic Caucus are concerned about it. Baldwin is the one that we have here,
Yep.
which people aren't kept at that long, but it's the largest private. The members are, yes, we are trying. We had a hearing last week of some of the horrific conditions that Democrats have to organize because Republicans won't do it. We are now trying to organize, and I'm not even going to tell you here because I don't want it to, that we're trying to make sure someone's at every ICE facility every week. Because what they do when they know we're coming, they clean it up. So we're working on that. We're working on legislation. It's something that is very real and that we got to work on. And if people want to direct their energy towards something, you've seen we need to get organized. We're going to spend the weekend trying to figure it out. That ICE is going to build another facility in Romulus. There was another address that was actually in the 6th district that I'm still worried about. But the mayor initially thought it wasn't true. He got told by a broker they wouldn't do it. He got a call, and then I spent a lot of the afternoon and last night trying to verify it. I think it is true that yesterday ICE tried to buy put in contracts to buy 8 buildings around the country, and Romulus is one of them. We're continuing to try to verify that over the weekend, but Darren Camilleri and Reggie are the lead state legislators. Rashida and I are going to help work and develop. Are going to need to make a lot of noise if that does turn out to be what it now does appear for it to be. They got to do zoning, they got to do city council, and there needs to be large protests in Romulus, and people who care can go and help do that too. That's something you can help organize for next week too.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I am going to have to go. Got to speak 10:15. I keep running.
Actually don't have a question. I'm on the board of Mira, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone did have the number to
Thank you.
call or text. If you see ICE, we prefer text because we don't always have time to answer the phone. But the number is 734-224-3852. I will also put it up on the board.
It's a Michigan immigration.
It's Movement for Immigrant Rights Action.
There you go.
And I want to say this, they know what to do. So like they'll call me and we start getting the privacy. We know how to then go get lawyers. They know how to work the thread so we aren't getting rumors. Mira's the point of contact in Washtenaw to help make sure everybody that needs to be engaged is engaged.
Right. It's super important to not feed the rumor mill, right? Because then we don't know where to put, officials don't know where to put resources. So if you have a question or if you have an observation or a complaint, call Mira first. Okay. All right. You heard what we want to get done at the federal level, and that's hard. Restricting ICE from sensitive areas, prohibiting state and local governments from disclosing the personal information of individuals without a court warrant, and prohibiting masks on law enforcement officials at a bare minimum. We have 3 bills, and where's Senator Irwin? Yes, and you too. Come on up. Senator Irwin and Michigan Resistance lead, my friend Ginger Kinney. We are, of course, we have 3 bills in the state Senate on these particular issues, these specific issues. As usual, because we're all Democratic county, our senator and our representatives are, of course, trying to pass these bills. And so it can be frustrating. It's like, well, who do we punch then? Where does our action lie? And it's always Michigan Resistance who is in direct contact all the time with our state legislators, who gets the word out to people who have red senators, red representatives to persuade them. So to vote in the right way. So I want you guys to speak for about 3 minutes, and then we need to talk about Mop Up Michigan, two ballot initiatives we need to get going.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, everyone. Great to see you. I'll let Ginger follow up with a little bit more focus on the action that Michigan Resistance is doing, but I want to do my best to channel Finn because I know we got a busy agenda and talk about 3 quick things. Special election in Michigan, these bills that we're working on regarding ICE, and also some of the work we're doing in Lansing to work on affordability, as the Congresswoman was mentioning. So first and foremost, right now, because this is the Democratic Party and because we're organized to win elections, I want to let you know that the Michigan Senate is teetering on the edge. We have a 1918 situation right now, and there's a special election happening as we speak. The primary just ended, and so there's a special election that's going to happen in May up in Bay City, Saginaw Township, Midland County. And so that election is going to make a big difference in tipping the Michigan Senate, and it's an election that happens now before this November. So it's a really great opportunity for Democrats. If you're interested in getting active, either with canvassing or if you've got doors or dollars to donate, let me know. I'm happy to help you get connected to efforts to help win that election, because that puts us one step ahead for holding on to the Senate next year. This is the seat that Congresswoman Kristen McDonald-Rivet vacated when she ran for Congress. So it's important that we hold that. Secondly, we are working on trying to stand up for our values and our rights in the Michigan legislature as well. We've got this reckless, lawless, unconstitutional federal government, bring authoritarianism and white supremacy. It's a nightmare for all of us. And so I'm really glad to see you all here. We're doing what we can in the Michigan Senate to stand up against that this week with Senate Bills 508, 509, and 510. Teresa gave you a description of what they do. They try to make sure that ICE is not in sensitive areas, is not acting lawlessly in Michigan, and they try to push back against this awful policy that the federal government is now endorsing, where your skin color is sufficient for suspicion. I think that's deeply wrong, and I think it's something that Democrats need to continue standing up against, because when I walk down the street, when I take a walk around my neighborhood, I don't feel like I need to carry my passport, right? A lot of you maybe don't know that I'm a member of the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of Chippewa Indians, but I don't look like it, right? And I don't have to worry about that. But there are people in our area there are people in our country who have an accent and who have darker skin, and those people are getting harassed. They're getting detained. They're getting arrested. They're having their rights violated. You know all this. And so we're trying to stand up against that in Lansing with these bills. And then finally, I think something that's on everybody's mind right now, and I think Democrats need to be talking about consistently, is what are we doing to stand up for the basic everyday interests of everyday people? And one of the things that you're probably noticing right now is that our electricity bills are insanely high. I'd be happy to spend a really long time talking to you about how I think we got here and how I think we can get out of the spot we're in. But one of the things I'm working on right now with Senator Schink is some legislation to allow something called virtual power plants. And what this would be is this would be to say that if we can aggregate generation, clean energy generation, and efficiency and conservation, and we can show that that can meet our energy needs just as well as a new power plant would, we want the Michigan Public Service to have to consider that, because the cheapest energy and the cleanest energy is the energy you don't waste. And so this is an effort to just get really aggressive about energy conservation and efficiency in ways that will lower our bills and put a whole lot of people here in Michigan to work doing it. It's smart policy. It's good for the environment. It's good for our pocketbooks. And so that's just a one little slice. I want to let you know that while we're fighting against this recklessness in DC, while we're fighting against all the bad things that are happening, I want you to also know there's a lot of things we're doing on prescription drug affordability, car insurance, electricity, and other issues that are important to our people. So thanks.
Thank you, Senator Urban. Real quick, what's the date of the special election?
It's early May. I don't know.
Oh, it's early May. Okay, good. Okay, so we have a little bit of time to mobilize on that. That's great. That's great. Charles Roth, if you're here in the room on Zoom, let's get that on mivoter.org. Right, Ginger? That's
There. Thanks, Jeff. Okay. You guys know what Michigan Resistance does. We contact the constituents of Purple District Republicans to try to get them to go along with bills that we think are important to pass. The ones that Jeff was just talking about, 504, 508, 509, 510 are ICE related, to restrict ICE from sensitive areas like schools, places of worship, hospitals, courts. That's a biggie, by the way, and childcare centers. Also to prohibit the state and local governments in Michigan from disclosing personal information without a court-ordered warrant. Very important, because if they get that information from the state or the local government, they go after these people. And 510 is to prohibit the masks. So what we need you to do is to call, there are really only two Purple District senators. They are Mark Huizenga, not Bill Huizenga, who's a congressman. Mark Huizenga is a senator in the state of Michigan. It's a state senator from Kent and Ottawa counties, parts of those. And also Michael Weber, and let me give you Mark Huizenga's phone number first, 517-373-0797. And the other one is Michael Weber. He's from basically the northern part of Oakland County and Macomb County. His phone number is 517-373-0994. I will put these numbers up on the board, and please call them and tell them that they need to support these bills. They don't want to turn off the Republicans in their district, and so please do this.
Thank you, Ginger. All right, thanks, you guys. Thanks so much. Next, I promise that next month we'll have more time for actually party business because we got so much going on. A couple of things. First of all, will the people who are circulating petitions for I wish there were the ballot proposals, put the info on the board about how to sign those, okay? And if we have time at the very end, we will address that again. There are free calendars here, Make America Think Again. If you want to get a monthly calendar created by an old friend, Stu Dowdy. And I think that's it. Thank you. It's May 5th. Okay, so we will be mobilizing to make that, to win that election again. We have 3 or 4 candidates for Wayne State Board of Governors. Please come on up, and I'm handing this mic over to Eli Nathans, and I want to say thank you to Eli, who's the co-chair of programs, Annie, who's the other co-chair of programs, and Kathy Wyatt for putting together an incredible program today.
Thank you, Teresa. One preliminary announcement. We're trying to pay a bit more attention to security. So in addition to this door here, there's a door at the far end of the hall. There's an exit sign in the ceiling. So if there's a need to exit rapidly, you have two possibilities. I know that Georgie Bargamian is here. Sharif Akil. I'm going to do this in alphabetical order. And Naz Hassan. Is Naz Hassan here? Thank you. Okay, so it's going to be alphabetical order by last name. Sharif Akil be first, then Georgie Bargamian. I also invited Richard Mack. Is Richard Mack here? No. Each of the candidates will have 5 minutes, and the timing is going to be. I guess you'll have a notice by these signs. So, Caroline, could you please hold that up? When you have 30 seconds left, this yellow sign will go up. When your time is up, a red sign will go up. So that's how we'll time you. So first, Sharif Akil.
I'll try to be like Finn within a minute, but it's not going to work. How many people remember The Clash, Rock the Casbah? All right, well, Sharif don't like it, right? So that's me, that's Sharif. I'm going to tell you about some things I don't like. But first, just a little bit about me. My parents, immigrants from Egypt, they set root in Sterling Heights, Stevenson. My dad became an engineer at General Motors, and he became an inventor of the first robot that painted cars. And that's the testament to an immigrant, just one immigrant of the many immigrants that make America what it is today. That's why the immigration thing is a very important thing. I got my bachelor's degree at University of Michigan, go blue. And then I went to Wayne State and I got my MBA and my CPA. After that, I went to Detroit College of Law, and for the last 30 years, I've been practicing law, civil rights, representing immigrants, union workers, employees, workers, just fighting for their rights. So this is where I've been at. I've sued Trump. I've sued defense contractors. We represented torture victims where they were subject to war crimes. So I've been around for 30 years. Today, you know, there's a lot of discussion about immigration, but universities also, you know, they're being compromised. Their rights are being compromised. There used to be a safe haven of free ideas, free flow of information. Faculties would be free from any intimidation. Their tenure was protected. Students would be able to talk with one another and exchange information. And this is at stake. Union workers, faculty workers, their rights, their contractual rights is also in jeopardy. And this is the reason why I made the decision to run for Wayne State University Board of Governor. It is important to recognize that Wayne State, no question, University of Michigan is a jewel of Washtenaw County and the state of Michigan. But Wayne State is a jewel, and it's a special place for the city of Detroit. And we need to make it better. An important fact for people to know is that Wayne State is the hub of first generation, I'm waiting for that yellow sign, I hope, is a hub for first generation students. And what that means is parents did not go to school. And the sad part about this, and many of them rely on Pell Grants. And Pell Grants are grants given to people that have modest means. But the graduation rate is 36% after 4 years at Wayne State. And you take it up 2 more years, it's just over 55%. The national average is 70%. So there is a lot of room to grow there. This is something that's dear to my heart. Wayne State is a special place in my heart. And this is something that we need to work with. Another very important thing is transparency. There needs to be more transparency on research grants. Because Wayne State is an R1 research center. And it could be better, and it could be more on the national spotlight. So this is something that's important. I represented a professor who was a whistleblower back 10 years ago, so I saw the inner workings there, and I think I can help. The final thing I wanted to mention about Wayne State University is that it needs to lead and be part of the resurgence of Detroit. And if it does that, it makes the state of Michigan better. There needs to be better employment retention, more collaboration with employers and the university, more affordability consideration should be given to students so they're able to complete their degree within that time and contribute to employers within the city of Detroit. That's kind of like a big idea. An important thing too is helping the graduates pay off their loans. One way to do that is give them a guaranteed loan program, meaning if they provide community service within the city of Detroit, work within the city of Detroit, there could be an incentive program to help them with their loans. So there's a lot of ideas I have. There's a lot of rights at stake. We are in a state of peril right now nationally. There's no question. You feel so galvanized and incentivized when you come here and you see people of conscience here. But remember, our students always, since the 20s, since the Vietnam, since apartheid, they've always been the moral compass. They've always been the moral, and they are our future leaders, and we have to protect them. We are their parents, but when they go to college, the teachers and the faculty, they're the second parents, and we need to protect the faculty. We need to protect these students, and that's why I'm running, and I hope for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Georgie Bargamian.
There is not a height requirement to run for Wayne Board of Governors. I don't know. My fellow candidates are very tall. Anyway, good morning, fellow Washtenaw County Dems. I'm Georgie Bargamian, also running for Wayne Board of Governors. I was moved to do this several weeks ago for personal reasons and because I care very much about Wayne State and what it has to offer, not only to the residents of the state of Michigan, but really nationally as well. I'm a graduate of the law school. My husband's been on the faculty at Wayne State for about a quarter century, and our son got his music degree from Wayne State University as well. So I care about the place. I was a union side labor lawyer at the International Union UAW Legal Department and Associate General Counsel, doing what evolved to be predominantly public sector Michigan labor law. And I became aware of Wayne State as a public employer. And that's how I think of Wayne State, as a public employer as well as an institution of higher education. And there were things there, labor relations there were not good for a long period of time. That's something that I really want to focus on. And Sharif talked about the faculty tenure, about the respect for workers there. And that's got to really come from the top. There have been past administrations that did not respect workers' rights, and that's got to change. Because a strong workplace where workers are just not looked at for their output, but for what they can give an input in a proactive manner, not as an afterthought or to check the box, is very important for the growth of Wayne State University and for change to come and to bring those constituencies within Wayne State University into the conversation much sooner. It makes collective bargaining later much easier and a much smoother process when you have collaboration all the way along. So that's very important to me, those labor management relations. I was also lucky enough, I was in the legal department at the UAW for 15 years, and then I was lucky enough to be appointed to be an assistant to the International's first Latina vice president, Cindy Estrada. And by working with Cindy, I was able to not only look at working public employees from a servicing perspective, managing our staff doing that, but I was also Cindy's representative often in Detroit, in our with unity, labor, unity in the community with labor, to work with other groups that were advancing and fighting for water affordability, fighting water shutoffs, fighting home evictions, and working with West Detroit organizations regarding ICE, which was outside of schools and outside of churches, even 10 years ago and longer, just weren't killing people who were protesting. So these are chronic problems, but learning how to build coalitions is a feature and a skill that's necessary within Wayne State and also in the external communities around Wayne State. That's something that's very necessary. The free speech rights are paramount. We've seen Wayne State really not live up to the promise of a public institution that can be a place of modeling, not only for Detroit, not only for its students and workforce, not only for Michiganders, but as a national model of higher education about what civic, social, and economic justice looks like within that space. Wayne State's the top university in the state of Michigan in terms of that economic mobility, but social justice and civic justice have to be combined with that. Economic justice doesn't happen without the other two. You don't have full rights and full justice within your society unless you have those three together. Wayne State can do better with protection of free speech rights, and it can do better with transparency and reaching out to protesting groups to meet and try and find common ground. Modeling dialogue is important. And the accessibility factor, Wayne State does a pretty good job with a variety of programs for accessibility to the university. The problem happens when you get beyond 4 years and you don't have the same supports for the 6-year student, the 7-year student, and the 8-year student. Graduation rates are 60% at year 6 and 8. We've got to do more to help those students. Any graduation is a success. Thank you, and I look forward to you considering supporting. Thank you.
Good morning. I cannot thank enough to these Washtenaw county dams. It's a Saturday, cold out there, but you all came here for a great reason. There is no other time, better time than this time to run for any offices because what's going on around us. I, as a second vice chair of the Michigan Democratic Party, all I see, our party is above our individual interest, and our state is above our interest, and the country is above our interest. So, first of all, the young man who is organizing the ICE protest, I support it, and I hope you all will come and join the race because we are in a chaos. My friend, this is Dr. Naz Hassan. I'm running for the Wayne State Board of Governors. 36 years ago, I came to America for a great dream with $4,600 in debt because my father could not afford to send me. Here I am today. I finished my undergrad, my master's, and as well as my PhD from Wayne State University. Currently, I'm working for General Motors as an industry engineering manager. My friend, my interest in public service is what is driven me to run for this office. In my undergrad program, I was a vice chair of the student body. And my master's program, I was a graduate senator. So I know what it takes for us to work with the university board and authority. I've done it. Last 22 years, I have been a political activist, party member. I organized and built an organization called Bangladesh American Democratic Caucus, one of the strongest caucus in Michigan Democratic Party. In the last 2 terms, I served our party as a 6th vice chair. Currently, I'm serving our party as the 2nd vice chair. Organizing, mobilizing, and executing in an election cycle like this year is very, very important. So I'm going to talk about our Wayne State University. As a student, I feel there is a lot to do, as Sharif Akil and Marjorie also spoke about this. And there are fine people who is running for this office. This is very important for us to put the right people to fight for our students, for our faculty, and our union members as well. We need, Wayne State is known for its research and innovation. We must continue and put more money so that our students can excel because they are our future. We have to make sure that we expand our scholarships, stipend, and grants, as well as a program that Sharif mentioned about, so that when they have debt, when they graduated, so there is a program so that they can do community service. I like that, and I support that too, personally, because we have to help our students. Cost of education is going up. Now, our country needs to lead in this sector in education across the world. So that's why cost of education should not be going up. Rather, there should be subsidies for education. We must help and support our students, retain the talent, especially the teachers, faculty teacher who's tenured up, and the graduate students who I spoke with. Some of them are struggling because I was a graduate student assistant as well because of the cost of living and the money that they get. And many of the students are struggling to make living and as well as continue their education. For the union, we must have a collective bargaining. I support that. And also we need to establish a degree in labor and studies at Wayne State University. We want to make sure that we have a working a training, workforce training for our students after high school who doesn't want to pursue higher studies or even beyond that, so that our university can collaborate with the community colleges and other colleges, and that we can offer that, and the students are ready for the technological advancements that they have and go in the workforce with good paying jobs. So with all in all, that we have also we have to make sure that our budgeting is transparent, fiscally transparent, and that we do not put the burden on our students. Make sure that working families are not suffering to send their kids to school. So this is what I stand for, and I ask for your support at the April 19th Michigan Democratic Party Convention, where we will be nominating our Attorney General, Secretary of State, and our Supreme Court candidates, as well as our university candidates. And I ask for your support there. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Take care, we will win in November together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I thank all the candidates. Actually, you got about 10 seconds. Okay, really, 10 seconds.
All right. These are 8-year terms. Current balance on the board is 5 Democrats, 3 Republicans. 2 seats are open. Do the math. We need to really pay attention to this race, or else anything we talked about is going to go down the tubes. And we're going to have MAGA Republicans on that board. Don't think they're not gunning for it.
Thank you very much. Next panel, Kathy Wyatt. Is Caroline Sanders here? And all the panelists are invited to come up. You're spread out in alphabetical order down this row. Kathy, it's all yours.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Hi, how are you? I'm sorry. It's nice to meet you. Okay, we did our assignments.
So good morning. We'll try that one more time. I'm not a teacher, but what do they say? Raise your hand if you can hear me. Okay. So good morning. For those of you that don't know me, I am Caroline Sanders. I'm one of the 9 Washtenaw County commissioners. And, just for shits and giggles, there are 9 Democratic commissioners. I am also chair of the Washtenaw County Black Caucus. I would like to invite you or welcome you, everyone in the audience, and those that are joining us online, to the annual Black History Month program. Too often, Black voices are not included, sometimes thoughtlessly, sometimes deliberately. We are often not heard, or the loudest, or those willing to be the only one in the room, and are chosen to represent Black people, often only when we're needed. There's not normally an attempt to have relationships with us, ongoing relationships. Today, we're going to hear from Black people in the trenches actually doing the everyday work to make all people's lives better. Let me stress that, all people's lives. So even though, because of our own culture, our priority may be African American people, we still live here in this world and have to interact with everyone. So those things that we fight for benefit everyone else as well. They will be talking about issues important to Black people, and you will notice that they not only impact people of color, but everyone. We want to thank you for being here to listen and learn. I want to thank Kathy Wyatt for volunteering me to do this and giving me talking points so I don't go off script. Now I'm going to pass this over to our moderator, Kathy Wyatt, one of the co-chairs of the outreach and community involvement engagement.
And even though I did nudge her to do this, she's still my friend. So thank you all for being here. I looked around this room. I was peeking at all the numbers online, and it makes me feel good. This is Black issues. This is Black History Month, and Black issues affect not just Black people, but all of us. And so it's good to see the room packed. Not me, just packed. So yes, these are folks here who are in the trenches, who do work impacting Black people and all of us every single day. And they work hard. I know all of them and the work they do, and it is an honor to facilitate, moderate this panel. And I would like each of them to do a self-introduction. We'll go ahead and start with former Rep Felicia Brabec. And I have to add that she is running for the Senate, though that, that is sort of off topic. But if you would like to introduce yourself and briefly give your background and specifically as it relates to the area that you're representing today.
Good morning, everyone. I want to echo what Kathy was saying. It's so great to see so many folks here this morning. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Teresa. Thanks, everyone, for having us here. And this panel is timely, considering what's happening right now. But it's something that we should, as Caroline was saying, should be aware of all the time and should be lifting up all the time. And so I'm happy to be here. As Kathy mentioned, I was a state rep. There are some colleagues in the room. I see Senator Irwin, and I thought, wasn't Rep Morgan? He was here somewhere. He was here. So I got to serve as a state rep for 4 years. I was a county commissioner for almost 10. My day job is I'm a clinical psychologist, and so have been a therapist for now 30 years, which is hard to believe, but I love that work. And in terms of, I get to work on here, particularly in the community, and am talking about today issues of food insecurity. And have done that work particularly in our community since 2012. I got to serve as a board member on Food Gatherers for 9 years. I currently get to serve with Kathy and other folks on the board of YpsilantiMeals on Wheels. And so that is something that has been near and dear to my heart, addressing that. One of the things that folks can forget here in Washtenaw County and overlook is that there is hunger here. And sometimes people think it doesn't exist here and that we need to pay attention outside of our county, and that is not true. And later, we're all going to get into kind of some of the demographics of the issues that we're talking about. But if you leave with nothing, please remember that there is so much to do here in our county on the issue of food insecurity. You just want to keep it going.
Okay, all right. I'm Sharine Buddin, and I'm the Executive Director of Family Learning Institute. And my background is that I am a former principal from the Ypsilanti School District and a former teacher. I retired after 31 years, and this is what retirement looks like. I came to the Family Learning Institute with the intention of staying for 5 years. This is number 11. And the reason it's number 11 is because the work that we do in our community is so vitally important. We tutor reading. We tutor reading to the students in Washtenaw County, and we do it without cost. And that's what I'm so very, very proud of. We reach the children that need the tutoring the most, the kids whose parents can't afford it. We take it out to the community. We have programs in Ypsilanti before and after school at Holmes and Erickson Elementary. We have after school at STEAM and Dickin in Ann Arbor. We have programs at our main site on South Industrial, and we have programs at Park Ridge Community Center. We really embrace the fact that we are in a literacy crisis. Our children are not performing well. They have needs. And I'll speak more to that, but what I would like for you to leave with today is the fact that you can make a difference. If every person here takes an opportunity to make a commitment in some way, we can solve the literacy crisis.
She's doing a mic drop before we even start. So I'm Derrick Jackson. I'm currently the Racial Equity Officer here in Washtenaw County. I'll keep it brief because we have some amazing questions and conversations to go on, but I do want to acknowledge that my position is only in existence, and the Racial Equity Office of Washtenaw County is only in existence because of Miss Felicia Brabec. So I thought she was going to, allude to racial equity, but I think that does deserve a round of applause. I literally remember the first time that Felicia, as a county commissioner, came to me with this wild idea, and this was years ago, right? Around like we're gonna create a racial equity office, and there was lots of conversations and pushback around just having it be racial equity office. Why not just be the equity office? And I think there's something really important about centering racial equity, even though we focus on a lot more than just race. We have this targeted universalism philosophy, so we do a lot. But to have the courage back then to push, even against some of your fellow commissioners, to create the office. So I would be remiss if I didn't give honor where honor is due. And I'm so thankful to be in the role to be able to do the work that I do. Quick version of the Racial Equity Office, it is how you embed equity throughout local government. So any resolution that goes before the Board of Commissioners comes through my desk, right? So we get to talk about what's the impact on equity of every single decision, every budget allocation that gets made. And so that's a part of what I get to do every day. So I'll leave it there because we got a lot of conversation to have today.
Good morning. I am Jazz Parks, the proud superintendent of Ann Arbor Public Schools. Just to kind of extend what Derrick was talking about, I sit here as 2% of the superintendents in this country who are African American women, right? As steward of education, where these K-12, where these statistics begin. Right. And so I'll start with my takeaway I want you to have at the very beginning, that it is our collective responsibility to address those statistics for our students and for the young people that we serve, so that when they are in these seats, it's no longer only 2% of people nationwide who look like them representing particular roles and responsibilities and stewardship and service. In the Ann Arbor Public Schools, we are quite proud of the work that we are doing, while also acknowledging that we have a lot of work left to do. The work is continuous. I have been in the district ish years, about 20 years almost. And I have been serving in this role as superintendent for 2.5 years. Prior to that, I was assistant superintendent, executive director, principal, and an assistant principal. And I always tell people when they ask me my favorite role, it was definitely a principal. We had a lot of fun every day. And so it's good work. I'm excited to be here and look forward to our conversation.
Good morning. Okay. Good morning. Thank you. Y'all don't know how hard it is to be up here with all y'all looking at us. So my name is Alfreda Rooks, and I am the Director of Community Health Services for Michigan Medicine. Community Health Services is the department within the institution that has programs and services that address the social needs of not just our patients, but our community too. So that runs the gamut from Arbor Meals on Wheels all the way to our school-based health centers, which we are in Jackson County, Washtenaw County, Genesee County, and soon to be in Wayne County. So about 18 different schools that really focus on our youth. We have 6 programs that focus on older adults. We are also the food vendor for YpsilantiMeals on Wheels at a time when we needed to make sure that there was parity between Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor. And so we're very proud that we gave a grant to our patient food nutrition services to be able to provide meals at a cost that they could afford. One of the most important things I think that I'll take away, since everybody was talking about their takeaways, for me is that we know that in 2026, later on in 2027, there will be about 600,000 people in Michigan, I believe, who will lose their Medicaid coverage. What I need you to do is to tell folks just because you don't have Medicaid does not mean that you let your health care lapse. So please encourage people to continue to go and get those chronic conditions taken care of because we don't want them to become acute.
Good morning, everyone. Wow, you primed them. Thank you. My name is Shonagh Taruza, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Interfaith Hospitality Network at Alpha House. And Miss Alfreda here neglected to tell you that she's technically my boss because she's our board president. She's very humble. So I am Zimbabwean Scottish. My father was Zimbabwean. My mother was Scottish, born in Scotland, raised in Zimbabwe. So I'm an immigrant. And I immigrated to the US in 2005. And from the minute I arrived here, I've been serving tirelessly all this time. So immigrants are what makes America great. Just need to say that. Thank you. So as far as my field, well, professionally, I started off as a scientist in Zimbabwe, agricultural scientist. And then when I moved to the US, I went to seminary and was in the ministry for many years. And then from that, moved to Alpha House. And so Alpha House, when I joined, was a 6-room shelter on Jackson Road. And over the past 3 years, we've been hustling. And we're now at the point where we are a multi-site shelter. We have Jackson Road, which now has the capacity to shelter 14 families at a time in the residential program. And then we can shelter 10 families in the basement as overflow drop-ins. We have the Trinity Health, the new shelter, Upper House East on the St. Joe's campus. Yeah. And that can shelter 30 families. And then we also have 6 master lease houses. So we hold the lease. The houses are leased to us, and we operate them as shelter houses. So there's a lot going on in housing and homelessness. I'm sure you've started hearing some of that. We came before you a couple of months ago to talk about it. I was here last year warning you that it was coming. Well, the storm is here. And so I'll share more about that when it's my turn.
So all of you now can understand why I am honored to be at this table with these folks. They are, there it is. They are, as I said, doing amazing work. And one of the things I noticed is how the work they do to make lives better in Washtenaw County overlaps. So the next question that I have for everybody, and this panel is primarily informational. It is to help everyone in the audience and online understand better what we are facing in Washtenaw County, what the challenges are in human services and protecting the most vulnerable residents of Washtenaw County. So again, let's start with here with Felicia. And we would like a status update and challenges that are expected in the area that you are handling. Would you like to go ahead?
Sounds great. Thanks, Kathy.
Yep.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about general information about food security issues here in our county. And then I'm going to speak particularly about food gatherers and WIMO and some of the partnerships. And Alfreda stole one of my lines. So we're grateful for the partners. So anybody have an idea about the percentage of folks in our county who are food insecure? Yeah. You are spot on. Amazing. Wow. Oh, this is going to take longer. Okay, so 14% of our folks here, and so we have about 370,000 folks here in our county. So that equates to about 51,000 people. 51,000 people. You can imagine, it's not a far leap, that Black and Latino residents are disproportionately impacted. Who knows that percentage? I do. But that's cheating, Derrick. All right, fine. 31%. Right, 31% of our Black and Latino families and residents. That doesn't mirror our population, right? Our population here in Washtenaw County is about 70% white, 12% Black, 5% Latino, and 11% Asian. And part of this has happened due to several different factors. We have economic pressures, right? Agencies, it's just more expensive to operate agencies, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Unfortunately, and Alfreda talked about this, but decreased federal aid and federal funding. And the impact that this has is limited access to nutritious food. We have high costs for our agencies to operate, and we have food deserts, particularly in 48197 and 48198. One of the candidates spoke earlier about this, but it's particularly of note, of interest, that our residents who are college age endure more, the numbers are higher in terms of food insecurity. The most recent data from EMU, 46.5% of the students report being food insecure. 46.5. So to address all of these issues, it's not just what folks who are in the food security, those agencies are doing, but again, like Kathy was mentioning, everyone at this panel is doing it, and where, the places that they're representing. So I want to talk a little bit about food gatherers now that you kind of know the general landscape. So food gatherers, as many of you know, is our primary food bank here. They distribute food all over the county, have partners all over the county. However, they have additional services in 48197, 48198 because of what we talked about, that 31% of our folks who are struggling. Food gatherers serves about 60,000 individuals a year. 60,000. About 48,000 of those are from Washtenaw County. Some folks are from outside of our county if they're near and close to some of our partner agencies. But 60,000, and that's unique individuals. That's not visits. That's unique individuals. We have about 140 partners. Think Hope Clinic, Second Baptist. We have school pantries, housing sites, and then summer food sites. In terms of the food that Food Gatherers is able to distribute, it's about 10 million pounds of food annually, and that's about 8.5 million meals right here in Washtenaw County. In terms of what Food Gatherers is seeing kind of year after year, it's about holding steady at that 60,000, but when something happens, like we saw like all the decrease and threats around and things that have happened around SNAP, then there's a spike in folks who need more support. But what Food Gatherers is seeing is that then that levels out. In terms of funding implications, what Food Gatherers has had to do over the past year is because of federal funding decrease, the USDA decreasing their funding, they have to spend about $2 million more on food purchasing themselves. And that's about 15% of their total pounds of food that they have access to. And Food Gatherers their plan right now is to continue to do that because they're trying to have limited access, or excuse me, limited implications for all of the agencies around that they get to partner with. But if this continues, they may have to be looking at how can they thoughtfully think about changing that. It's also important to know that because of that $2 million gap, that they are spending, Food Gatherers is spending about 30% more on food purchasing directly to be able to meet the need. So here are some of the challenges, because you asked about challenges that we're facing. So HR 1, the big, beautiful bill. Yep, exactly. What we've seen in there that impacts Food Gatherers particularly is the expansion of those who are now subject to work requirements. And there's a real concern that folks will be kicked off SNAP because of that. And when I was talking to folks at Food Gatherers about this, they're working really in partnership with HHS to try and make sure that they're in touch with as many folks as possible to make sure that that doesn't happen. But that's a real concern. State budget, we have our state friends here. There are also implications because of what the federal government is doing, and folks may have heard of this. The federal government now is changing what the administrative support split is for SNAP. It used to be 50-50. Right, boo, that's right. Thank you, Senator Irwin. That's exactly right. And it's changing now to 75% that the state is adding, and only 25 federally. That equates to $100 million. Right, so that's $100 million that the state, that our partners have to find to be able to meet that need, and just continue on the level that where we are. So the other thing that they're really worried about is not only will there be issues around the administrative costs, but next that the federal government will actually start coming after the actual benefits themselves. So they're really watching that. In terms of YpsilantiMeals Meals on Wheels, YpsilantiMeals Meals on Wheels serves 300 people a day. Particularly, it's about 50% in 48197, 50% in 48198-ish. And then there's about, they said, up to 5% in Pittsfield, Northeast Ann Arbor, and Belleville are the other. 40% of folks that WYMO gets to serve are people of color. And they really serve, WYMO really, again, Kathy and I are on that board, and we get to see this up close. Really, it's more than just serving the person who we get to go see when we deliver meals. It's really the family, because oftentimes, and many of us are in this age right now, like with sandwich generation, taking care of parents and our kids. And so WYMO sees that a lot. But WYMO doesn't have a wait list. What they try to do is really meet the need and increase routes. We added a route last year. We're adding another route in a couple months here. And WYMO has seen an increase of about 5% year after year of folks who we're delivering meals to. To qualify for this, folks have to be 60 and over, medically homebound, and there's about 10% of the folks who we get to serve who are under 60, who are medically homebound. All clients have Medicare, but a lot of the folks who we get to serve are dual eligible, so Medicaid and Medicare as well. Some of the challenges there are, like Food Gatherers, inconsistent federal funding always being something that we're looking at, and the uncertainty about the political landscape and funding landscapes. That's what we're talking about. And I mentioned this before, but the increase operationally and food-wise. And so that's a little bit about kind of what is happening kind of overall, and then we're going to talk about social determinants of health later, right?
Yeah, later, yes. Actually, I would like to jump around a little bit. If we could have housing and homelessness goes next, because while they all interrelate, housing, homelessness, and food insecurity are so tied together. And after that, we'll do health.
Okay. Well, I'm going to speak mostly from the perspective of families experiencing homelessness, because Alpha House is a family shelter. And so what we see is that 92% of the families who come to Alpha House for the shelter program are Black, mostly single mother, head of household. 94% of the people who drop into our overflow winter program, which is sleeping on cots in the basement, 94% of those are Black. And yet we only make up between 11 and 12% of the population. So there's a real problem there. And so the challenges we have are many. And so where to start? So first of all, I'll start off with how people experiencing homelessness are being depicted in this current climate. The White House executive orders on ending crime and disorder on America's streets basically painted a picture of a homeless person being an addict, being having mental health issues, being a deviant, vagrant, that type of thing. What we see at Alpha House is women who are the victims of systemic racism in this country. It's poverty. They don't need to go for mandated treatment. They don't need all these other things that they're saying. It's poverty. It's the system that is hurting them. So first of all, there's that. So the other big challenge stemming from what I just described is that there's been a change in the approach of the federal government towards how they support our sector. You've probably all heard of HCVs, permanent supportive housing, Section 8, rapid rehousing. So us as a shelter, I'll describe the system to you so you can understand where the problems are. Just say you're someone who's knows that you're about to lose your housing, you're becoming housing insecure. What you would typically do is reach out to Housing Access for Washtenaw County, which is the single point of entry where you'd go to get any kind of housing resource. So you call there and you say, I'm about to lose my housing. They may be able to give you eviction prevention money to keep you in your home, or they may be able to figure out some kind of other solution. As a community, our priority is keeping people in their homes. We don't want them coming through the system. So we're going to try and help you at the front end. Funds for those are beginning to dry up. So if you get to the point where you've lost your housing and you now have nowhere to go, you call Hawk and they will either figure out if they have resources for you, they'll send you to a shelter if there's a space. But what we're seeing is that we have 130 families on the waiting list for shelter right now. And that's been fairly consistent from when I first started. When I first started, it was probably about 120, which is why we've been hustling, trying to get more shelter beds. And we've gone from being able to support 6 families to 50, and we still have 130 families on the waiting list for shelter. But anyway, so we decided to, the past 2 years, we've operated a drop-in program just to catch those people who just literally have nowhere else to go in the middle of the night. We want you to be able to go somewhere. So you can come to Alpha House, you'll go into the weather program in the basement, and then the next day we'll figure out something for you. And what that next step looks like, if you're in the shelter, you've made it into Alpha House, the next thing we're going to do straight away is get you a case manager, assign you a case manager, and they're going to work on getting you housed, because our goal is to move you into stability, to empower you, to give you everything you need to survive and thrive. We don't just want to offer a bed or a roof. That's not doing anything. We want to change your situation. So we're trying to get you into some sort of subsidized housing as a priority, depending on what your situation is. So we'll try figure out, what's your income? Do you need to do more hours at work? Do you need a better job? Can we get you transportation? Is transportation an issue? Do you need childcare? Everything you need to be able to go and work and start earning money. Once you've got that income, then we'll figure out what program you're eligible for. It could be that you go and rent a house, like on your own, you find a house to rent. You all know what the prices are like in this county. And this is a single mother with 3 kids trying to work. Most of them end up being in service jobs. How are you going to afford like $2,000 in rent? So that the best bet to help the young ladies who come our way is to get them either into rapid rehousing, which is a year subsidized program, where we'll pay a portion of your rent, weaning you up until you're at the point where you're at stability. and then you take over from there. Or if you have challenges of some sort, mental health issues, or your child or children do, we're trying to figure out permanent supportive housing, or we're trying to get your housing choice voucher. All of those are under threat right now. And so what is going to happen? So we're not going to be able to move people through to stability because the stability is what is under threat. And so we're at a point right now where there's been a whole bunch of chaos. You've probably been tracking some of this with HUD, where there's a no-fos release. There's, you know, all this nonsense about trying to get the grants out for this next year. We still don't truly understand where we are, and we all now have trust issues given the way things have gone the past year. So we're realizing, and some of you may have seen the presentation we did to the Board of Commissioners on Wednesday, we're realizing we're heading for a real serious crisis. As a community, we do not have enough shelter beds for the people who have a need right now, and a whole bunch of people are going to lose their housing if we don't act as a community within the next few months. And what that looks like is initially we need 432,000 just to keep people in their houses through July. And so we went before the Board of Commissioners to see if we could have them step in to help us all out. Once we get to October is when it's most concerning. That's when all the families who are in the rapid rehousing program, if that money doesn't come through, they're out on the streets because the shelters are full and people are already coming into the shelters because they're falling on hard times from all this other stuff. Cost of living, all the other stuff is having an impact. So by the time we get to next winter, it could be horrendous. And I don't mince my words. This is my day job. I'm seeing it. It's unfolding right now. It is bad. And so I'll leave it there for now and hand over to who's next.
Alfreda, if you could hand it to her. Alfreda Rooks, and we'll be talking about the status of healthcare and all the challenges with the cuts, and what's that is going to do to people, real people. Thank you, Alfreda.
Yeah. First, I want to just kind of set the stage where a conversation is going to come up a little bit later. And that is when we think about health, what do you think about? Most of the time, it's just a disease and the treatment. But when we think about health at Michigan Medicine, it's about community health. It's about recognizing that health is all impacted by not having stable housing, not having adequate food, not being able to have a job that can pay you a living wage, not being able to get transportation to go to your job. Those things all encompass health. What we are seeing right now are challenges as it relates to coverage. One of the things that we did years ago was look at what our community benefit spend was. And community benefit means that as a nonprofit hospital, we are required and mandated to spend dollars in community where we're offering services or programs that are free or no cost or low cost to community. And we have seen that community spend go up and up. Our last report has not been verified yet. We're waiting for the validation to come back from the Michigan Hospital and Health Association, is that when we look at community health improvement, our spend has increased probably about $1 million from when we did it the last time, which was in 2023, but they're always a year behind. So we're collecting 2025 now. Round about 65, 70%, I think, of what we're spending, and there are more things that we are investing in community. So that is what we're seeing right now. And so one of the big challenges that we have is that when people lose their health insurance and they don't go to the doctor, something that was chronic becomes acute. They end up in our emergency room. Right now, our emergency room is probably averaging about 90% occupancy. You can have a wait in the waiting room, probably about 6 to 8 hours, maybe more. When you're going. And I had a friend who just went to St. Joe Trinity, and they're having the same experience that we're having, when as before, we were the one who was, like busting at the gills. COVID has not helped, nor has RSV. And our regular hospital occupancy, these are the folks who are in the beds, we average about 98% occupancy. And one of the last meetings we had as a group, when they said that we're at 102% occupancy, my thought was, did you put them in the refrigerator? Where are these people staying? you know, and so we just opened a new pavilion, which has eased some of it, but we are anticipating that things are going to get worse before they get better. And so what is it that we can do as one of the anchor institutions in the county to make sure that people who need to have the services can access the services? And so one of the things that we do is we go out into community. We don't just sit on the hill, as they say, but we go out into community. We do community flu clinics. We do health and wellness screens. We organize. Tony Denton, who is our Senior Vice President for Environmental, Social, and Governance, he's our chief officer for that. He's on the board of food gatherers. About 3 years ago, Michigan Medicine decided that we were going to have a 1,000,000 meal campaign to support food gatherers and food insecurity in our county. Just recently, we passed 800,000 meals, the equivalent of 800,000 meals that we're doing. One of the other things that we're doing is because Michigan has never really been seen as a community hospital, we were always that place where they didn't treat you right, but they would extend your life. True story, true story. So we have been very intentional in creating trust with community and also listening to community and what it is that they say to us. And so I think we've grown somewhat successful. We're going to have another community forum with the group that we organized coming up in March to give them a report card, so to speak, of what it is that we have done in listening to the community and what they said we must do. And so we are looking at this problem of the healthcare challenges, not from what happens inside our hospital doors, but what happens outside our hospital doors. What do we need to invest in so that we can make sure that we have excellent community health, but people have excellent individual health as well? And so I'll stop there. I want to hog the mic.
Thank you. So I'd like to go to education. And either Sharine or Jazz can go first. But one of the things that we need to not forget is the medium, what's happening now, but also long-term with our kids. Because at some point, we can all hope and pray that things will change in terms of the impacts of the federal government. And we need to make sure that our kids are okay, because it will be their world. So if you, Jazz or Sharine, would you? Okay.
Sure,
Excellent.
I'll start and then pass the microphone to Sharine. So all the things that we are talking about up here, from food insecurity, housing insecurity, all of these things converge in our schools. You know, we are no longer just teaching schools reading, writing, and arithmetic. We are taking care of students and families, the whole child in all ways. And so we cannot separate out students not having stable housing or stable food from being able to educate them, because the achievement gaps that people, including myself, like to talk about are a direct result of access and opportunity gaps. And so until we can address and correct those access and opportunity gaps, achievement gaps are going to continue to be a long-standing issue that's hard for us to address in any system, not just the Ann Arbor Public Schools. And so we are really focusing on taking care of students and families so that they are ready to learn. We have certainly mental health and physical health concerns with students that we have to navigate. Mental health in particular has become a significant factor in helping to support our students and our families. And when we have resources that are tied to a lot of strings in order to be able to get those resources to support students, it makes it really difficult and challenging. We are also focused on making sure that our students are focused on literacy, and I know Sharine will talk about this some more, so I won't talk about it too much. But what we are doing, we have transitioned our curriculum materials for our elementary students to be in line with the science of reading, which is proven to be more effective in helping students students to become readers. We also have some recent legislation that was passed, thanks to Senator Irwin, where we are now working at being compliant with that legislation by 2027 and identifying students early on who may be dyslexic and getting that early intervention, because we know when the gaps start early, it gets significantly hard to close the more and more they progress through school. So we are really focused on transitioning to the science of reading. Our staff is doing an incredible job in this first year of that curriculum that we are in. We are also getting our students, our staff trained in a particular way of going about educating students who may be dyslexic and identifying them. So we have training that we've done throughout this year for both our special education staff as well as our general education staff, because early literacy really is the door to pretty much everything else. And so that becomes a significant focus because of that. And so we are also really working at the advocacy for adequate school funding so that we can have the resources to be able to support students, again, not just in their reading, writing, and math, and all of the other things that we want to be able to offer and provide for them academically, but until they are fed and housed and healthy and taken care of and provided for, they're not ready to learn. And so we cannot take away any of these things that we're talking about in a silo and say that they're their own thing and don't affect students, because they do. All of this merges in our schools. We have 25% of our students and families who are free reduced lunch. So when we're talking about advocacy around universal school meals, it becomes really critically important, because who thinks that in Ann Arbor, right, that a quarter of our students who have provided the information and felt comfortable and safe sharing it. So that's just those folks. We're not capturing everybody. So just the folks who felt comfortable and safe sharing the information with us, a quarter of them are food insecure and qualify for free and reduced lunch. We have about 10% of families who are safe and secure providing that information to us who are without housing, who we wrap around and support with a myriad of resources, but we cannot do that alone. And so until we take care of students and families, we are hard pressed to make sure they're ready to learn walking through the door every single day.
We are waiting questions till later, but if you pop quick something in, really.
Okay.
Sharine, go.
To follow up on what Jazz said, yes, we see that every day when our children come through the door for their after-school programming, thanks to food gatherers, because we also benefit from that service. Our children receive after-school snacks when they come to our program in Ann Arbor particularly. And the importance of literacy is just that. If children can't read, they can't succeed. It affects every single thing that they do. And so I have to commend our school districts in their willingness to partner with our organization and several other organizations that are doing out-of-school programming to support what children need to learn. The details that we are able to get from the school district help us focus on providing individual programming for the children. So what they haven't gotten in the classroom and need reinforcement for are the things that we can then practice with them until they've mastered it. And then it can reflect back into their progress in the classroom. So that collaboration is so key. Children are not going to be successful by coming to after-school programming once a week and getting a little extra support. It takes that kind of collaboration, and that's what we can all do as community members. We've got a lot of organizations. FLI is just one of the organizations that work on after-school and before-school programming. We have formed Okay, we formed a what we've called a literacy coalition, and the literacy coalition, Kathy, I'm going to speak to that right now. The literacy coalition is a group of organizations that are working on literacy out of school time, literacy focus, and we come together and we have a monthly meeting and we support the programs that are taking place within our community with a literacy focus. We've been very fortunate to get, FLI has been very fortunate to get a grant from the state to support the work that we're doing. Thank you, Senator Irvin. There he is. Thank you. But also, we've gotten one from the county for the literacy organization. And that's going to be a collaboration. We're going to pull together organizations that are supporting literacy and spend that money to go out into the community and help embrace and train other people, other places that are trying to do literacy support for students. So we have a lot of small pocket of literacy programs in churches and community centers. Our goal with this is to bring them together and let's bring some of the people that have had that background together and show them some of the most recent research and methods to best support literacy outside of school. They can't do it all. They're not all teachers. They don't have all day, every day to work with the kids, but what's most impactful? What can they do that's most impactful? And then the other piece is we're going to be making sure that books are in children's hands, books that have people that look like our children doing the things that we want them to be able to see them doing. Good reading materials. We also want to be able to share with families things that they can do that will make a difference in their households. We have families that are working, parents that have zero time, but they really want to make a difference in their children's lives. We want to give them some ideas about how they can do that in their very busy schedule. So again, it takes people, it takes our community. I was reading, it's part of African American History Month. We have the phrase, each one teach one. It's an African American proverb that originated in the United States during slavery when Africans were denied education. When someone learned to read or write, it became their responsibility to teach someone else. The idea to spread knowledge for the betterment of the community. We can take that proverb and use it today. Each one, teach one.
Thank you. Could you hand that to Derrick? And I didn't leave him for last because he's the least. I wanted to pull this together, this particular, informational piece, the importance of equity, because it touches and ties all of this together. So, Derrick?
I'm going to remember that, Kathy. I'm the least.
I said not the
joking.
least.
I'm just joking, Kathy. I'm joking. I'm trying to add a little bit of levity before I just, dump a whole bunch of really stressful, hard things on us, some hard truths. So the question is, like, how do you tackle these very complex issues if you don't truly understand the problem? So I'll say two things. One, I'm thankful to be here. I've learned so much. I'm taking notes over here from the women on the panel who are doing some phenomenal work. But I'm also speaking at a Democratic Party event. I know many of you are politically engaged or you would not be here. So I have to say that what we are seeing happening around the country is not by mistake. It is not happenstance. It is intentional, and it is designed to tear down the very fabric of the things that these women have been talking about, of like what makes our society such a strong society. And so I really brought my laptop because there were so many of these things that I just had the reference of what we're seeing at the national level. So an attack on all things equity, right? So executive order aimed at purging anti-American propaganda, which is literally removal of things that reference our factual history, right? In particular, targeting people of color. Removal of exhibits across the country. Particularly in the Smithsonian and Museum, some of you seen this, right? Like they talk too much about how bad slavery was, and so they tried to remove like that language. The Department of Defense taking down things that train people or reminding folks about the Tuskegee Airmen. Literally scrubbing of websites, going through and just erasing entire histories and educational information from federal government websites. And you know how large and how all encompassing the federal government is. So it touches on all these different components of everyday American life. And then things that may seem smaller but have major impact when you add them all together. The national parks removing Juneteenth and MLK as recognized holidays, right? To have holiday events but also have free access into the national parks. Like this is all intentional and designed in a way to tear at the very things that allow us to do the work that you've been hearing about. And then just specifically to equity work, you know, the EEOC released something when I first started about a year ago that now having diversity or equity inclusion trainings within a work environment can be seen as creating a hostile work environment. So now you can, as an employee, if you have to go to a diversity or equity training, you can actually make a formal EEOC complaint and say, that's creating a hostile work environment. I don't feel comfortable having these conversations. So again, intent, and I will say, well-designed ways to tear down all the things that we are talking about that is really important. So the question was really about the challenges now and 3 years in. I think we're going to have major ripple effects. Once change happens, these things just don't go away. Look at the language that is being used around the country in everyday political debates, but just in conversations with folks, what's now acceptable to say, which 4, 5, 10 years ago would have never been said publicly. This is changing the fabric of some of these conversations that I think are really important to the equity work. So it's meant to cast a culture of misinformation, but also erasure. You know, I'm our family historian. And so my elders have passed down stories after stories after stories. I'm very proud of the Jackson surname. I know where it comes from. I know, and once I learned that my ancestors who were enslaved were not meek and weak. They didn't just sit there, like they actually did something. They were active. And the fact that any Black person who is a descendant of slaves is here means that your ancestors were strong to survive, right? And so understanding that is really important for understanding your own personal identity. Like equity is rooted in remembrance. When they erase that history, they're erasing and going at the fabric and the core of what we really consider important in equity work. The other thing I wanted to talk about was what it means here locally for organizations. So there's a local impact. So when you accept federal dollars or there's appropriations, now there are certain clauses within there that talk about what are your policies related to immigration enforcement, what are your policies related to equity and inclusion, and if you have some of these policies, be mindful that you might not want to sign to accept these federal dollars. And so that's impacting organizations in a couple of ways. Some are giving up on equity. We've seen it. Major institution in this county, not to be named, just said, "Oh, to hell with it," right? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I still go to get my health care from you. I still go to get my health care. And there are still good people there doing the work. But publicly, they wanted to separate from some of the language. There are some who are making changes. They are evolving their equity policy, like Central Michigan, I think it was. I think they did something pretty phenomenal. They changed some of their language, but they also gave more power and authority in how they do the work. There are some who are defiant, Washtenaw County, who are just committed to the work, haven't changed a single syllable in the policy since it was created. And there are others who are refusing to accept federal dollars because of the values that Shonagh referenced, right? So I heard Shonagh say this at the board meeting the other day. They refuse to accept HUD dollars now because of what HUD is asking them to do in certain requirements and how that goes against the values of how you treat someone and take away their dignity and respect. But that comes with the cost. That means that those HUD dollars that are important are not in the community that they can access. So those are real challenges that are impacting today that don't just go away when the office changes or maybe some policy changes. We're going to have to fight to make sure that those dollars get reinstated and all of that stuff gets reinstated in a way that I think is really, really important. It's also sowing mistrust in government. So some of the individuals that we serve who are mistrusting government, worried about getting a county ID because of what it might mean, worried about engaging with local law enforcement because of what it might mean, worried about coming to school because of what it might mean. All of those have real impacts on community life, community safety, and community wellness. And then I will say this, I think it's an opportunity though, because we've been challenged in a way, right? We've been challenged to think bigger, to think better, to do things we've never done before. They're not playing by the rules. Not saying that we don't play by the rules, but we form new rules. And then ultimately, the last thing I'll say about equity, one of the challenges is the word equity has just been co-opted. Right, it's been redefined. Some people believe it, and so when they see the racial equity office vehicle in certain parts of our community, they're skeptical. They're like, "What does this mean?" And so, reclaiming what that word is, evaluating what we've done. We shouldn't just be doing things just because they feel good. There should be some real intentionality behind how we do equity work, some systemic change work, some transformational work. And I think that's a challenge to us. So when we ask the question about what are some of the challenges, I think there's some challenges with the national narrative and continue to do this work. There's some challenges for us in local organizations who are forced to make some tough decisions around values, of accepting dollars or not accepting dollars. And then there's some challenges moving forward just in the equity space itself of like, what does it mean to do equity work in this current environment, and what ripple effects does that mean? The number of people who are doing equity through organizations, large institutions, has significantly dwindled just because the political winds have shifted. Now, some people are upset by that. I say, now I see you. Now I know who had real core values to this and who were wavering. And so it's an opportunity for us to build on some of those things. But I'll just leave you. I think the most important piece I'll say is, how can you do this work effectively if you don't understand the problems? And what they are trying to do is make sure we don't understand the problems. And it should not be confused. It is an intentional attack on the most marginalized individuals within society. And we're seeing it actually happen before our very eyes. Last piece I'll leave you with is, if you haven't read or haven't seen it in a long time, pull it back out. Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail. And some of you know it, but his real message were to so-called allies who were silent. He despised the racists, but he was calling out those of us who are allies, who understand the work, but are silent. And so I forgot to say this earlier in my opening, but one of my challenges to the people in this room is, I know most of you and you are not silent, trust me. But one of my challenges is around this work in particular. When we talk about homelessness in Washtenaw County, I did not know until Shonagh, the percentage of the homeless population that is really Black women with children and Black families. We don't talk about that in Washtenaw County when we talk about a new shelter. We don't talk about that my coworker, who happens to be white, has a 7-year more life expectancy than me, simply based on race and zip code. Those are the kinds of things that we need to be shouting from the mountaintops and really addressing. And what they're doing is trying to tear that ability down.
So I have to thank all the panelists at this point, and I'll thank them again, but I am so impressed by the work that they do and the commitment and passion with which they do it. I forgot to say at the beginning, just as a statement, that all of these panelists are here in their personal capacity. They are referencing the work that they do and who they do it for as informational, but they are here in their personal capacity. So we are going to move on to a group question, and some of it has already been discussed. And so anybody, we're not going to hit each person. After we ask it, feel free to kind of jump in and make this a group discussion. And that question is, how do the challenges in the various topic areas relate to one another, and the negative impacts that changes are impact, the lives of people that are being impacted. And we've talked a little bit about that, but I think it's really important to emphasize that all these things interrelate. So if somebody wants to step in and talk a little bit about how their area relates to the others being discussed, that would be great.
Well, I can start, and I'll be kind of brief. If a family doesn't have a house, that has a toll on their health, the whole family. Moving around has a toll on the children. Children probably aren't able to go to school regularly. The education suffers. If they don't have a home, they don't have a fridge and places to store food, so they're also food insecure. So no housing means that across the board, things are bad for that family.
Anybody else want to grab the mic and add to that, or not? We can move on to the next question.
Thank you. Just wanted to piggyback on that. When I was thinking and reflecting on this conversation, I think in our county, we've done an increasingly better job at breaking down silos. Because that has been an issue kind of historically, like everyone's kind of working in their lane because there's so much work to do. But I think we've gotten better, and you can see that, as folks are talking, it's like, oh yeah, and we partner together and we do this together. And I think that that has made a substantive change in all of our areas because they all impact one. But what I was thinking about today is, when you're food insecure and struggling in that way, it's difficult to focus on all the tasks of life. Right? Whether that's going to school, finding housing, applying for a job, or making an appointment to go for healthcare. All of those things are impacted. And so that I'm really proud of the intentional, strategic, continuous work of all of us, not just us up here, but everyone who is doing that, because I think it helps us move the needle in all of these areas in our county.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else that wants to add, or should I move on?
So I want to come at this from a different perspective. I want to come at this not from the challenges, because I see challenges as opportunities. And so when we're talking about how we're going to do our equity work, about 6 months before the inauguration, when I was beginning to understand that things are going to break bad around diversity, equity, and inclusion, I started talking to my leadership about we do community health. And that's why when they rolled back DEI at the University of Michigan, we were still able to do community health, because I was like, no, we don't do we don't talk about it like that. And so that's why we're still doing that work. And why it's important, and why I say we have to think about our opportunities, is that when we think about the welfare requirement, the requirement that's coming down from Medicaid, that you have to either work or volunteer. So what are we doing to address that? We're working on a program that will take the women who are in Alpha House or anyone else who is an adult coming from the individual shelter, to provide them with opportunities to have a job. But not just a job, but to be able to have a career. And so what we are doing is building relationships and going after dollars that will allow us to provide scholarships for technical training, and not just allied health careers, but also like in HVAC, other careers like that. So we're really being intentional about workforce development. We're being intentional about entrepreneurship and business owners and what we can do to support those folks. Our University of Michigan procurement did a whole series on how do you respond to a request for proposals from an institution in your business life. We are working to put more dollars into community, into the hands of the people who actually are on the front lines and have the expertise that we don't. But what we can do is bring those services into our facilities so that people don't have to make multiple trips to get somewhere. So we just opened the new Ypsilanti Health Center downtown, in downtown Ypsilanti. We're going to be bringing in resources so that if you have a doctor's appointment and it might be a day when you haven't been able to, you're couch surfing and you don't get your mail, but you need to do redetermination for Medicaid, We want those folks to be there so that when you come in, if you were looking for a job, we want Michigan Works to be there. We want, these are the things that we are doing because we know that if we can impact a person's livelihood, if we can impact them having stable housing, if we can impact them having stable food, then what we are doing is setting a foundation for generational wealth. And why would a hospital be concerned about that? Because if we can impact generational wealth, we can improve generational health, which means that all of those chronic conditions that people of color tend to have, we can mitigate them. We're not going to end them because some of it is genetics, but we can mitigate the impact of those health issues on people.
Not sure if it's working. I just wanted to chime in briefly from the county commission standpoint in terms of how there's a thread amongst all of these issues that we're talking about. In case you did know, we had a retreat yesterday right here in this room. And one of the things that came out of it was what some of my colleagues, Commissioner Somerville being one of them, came up with, which is the 3 H's. So housing, housing, health, and hunger. And they're all tied. And at some point, I shouldn't even say at some point, they all come to the commission for support and funding. So when these entities that are at the table run up against a wall, it ends up in our lap. And the request is for us to help fill that gap. And we are very aware and conscious about those needs and those desires so that we can maintain the quality of life that our residents become accustomed to and expect, quite frankly, from us as they elect us. So just know that the county commissioners, I think that we do a good job of showing that we support all of these areas, but it's always at the top of our radar.
And I was sat here for 6.5 hours yesterday as they worked very hard and they talked through things and they listened to experts and they discussed data, and I was really impressed. Our commissioners do care about the most vulnerable in our community. So I'm going to ask one very important question before we move on for questions from our audience. And that is, what can you all do to help? There is frightening amount of need out there. And again, we're talking real people. And because of all the cuts to so many areas, there will be people who will die. There's just no getting around that. And so I will ask everybody here if you want to give just a quick answer, or somebody, can speak for the group, you can chime in. But each of you, if you can just give a quick answer, what can the people in this room and online, what can we all do to help?
I think I said it before, but I think just understanding that all of these things are interconnected and interrelated, and all of us have the ability to impact these systems, because there's a fourth H there with housing, health, and hunger, and it's homework, right? So that doesn't happen when there is a lack of housing, a lack of health, and there's hunger, right? Homework doesn't get done either. So there's a fourth H there. All of these things are related, and we're not going to change academic outcomes for students until we can really address the big picture.
I'll just chime in briefly. 3 things I wrote down here. Do not become complacent. Right? We can get used to the new rhetoric and think that this is the way things are. Let's not forget how things are supposed to be. And also, you all can be, in some ways, the support and the backbone and the cover for your elected officials. And so continue to the support, the backbone, and the cover for your elected officials, helping them to understand how important these issues are and how to stay committed to it. And then the final one, I have to say it, is that As allies in some of the work, listening, this is why I think this session is so great, listening to the folks who are closest to the problem, listening to those who are directly impacted. Someone, I just happened to scroll through when I saw it on social media, were talking about ICE interactions here locally, and they were just cautioning people to not grandstand on an issue as an ally, because when the impact happens to those who are most marginalized, it is often not the ally who takes the brunt of that focus. It is the folks who we care about. And so I say that to this group is one thing I think we can do is to be intentional about listening, understanding what really needs to happen to help some of the individuals that the panelists have been talking about today.
Remember our babies. There's so much going on in our world right now, our country right now, and I've never seen so many young children stressed. And it's sad. We have to remember how all of this affects them on a day-to-day basis. We've got more mental health challenges in the schools. We've got children stressed out because they know what's happening, or they know their version of what's happening. We need to be involved with the people who are working closest to the children, those that are working with after-school programs, and our teachers that are working with these children on a day-to-day basis. What can we do to support them? Ask them, find out, become involved. Remember our babies.
To piggyback on what both of you said, understanding the issue is really important. Feeding America has an interactive map called Map the Meal Gap, and you can look at it by state and then county. And so use that tool. If it's interesting to you or you would like to know this information, I brought a copy of our list of all the partners that Food Gatherers has. So I have that with me. So I'm happy to share that. So understand the issue. Know that each one of us can make a difference. I feel like all of us have said some version of that, right? There's nothing too small or too big, right? Plug in where you feel comfortable and follow through and do that thing. And talking with, thinking about talking to those folks who are on the ground doing the work. I talked to both folks at Food Gatherers and YMO about how can we all help? What can we do? And there were 4 things. We can volunteer, right? At YMO, we need folks to meal deliver. We talked about how we're having a new route in a couple months, right? We need folks who can do that and commit to that. Sometimes for the folks who we get to serve through YMO, our volunteers are the only interaction that the senior has every day. Right? Think about how important that is and how vital that is. So think about volunteering. With Food Gatherers, oftentimes Food Gatherers, because a lot of people know them, their volunteer capacity can be full. But again, their partner agencies need help. Right? So think about the school sites, the pantries, the churches that all could use our volunteer help. The next part is, if you can, donate. We talked about all the implications because of things in HR 1, decisions that are being made, and the pull on these agencies to be able to do the work that they need to do, and having kind of unrestricted gifts really helps with that. We talked about, all of us have talked about it in various ways, but advocacy, right? Talking to other people about the things that you heard from all of the folks here. Talk to other folks so that people know what's going on and tell them how they can help, so that we have a ripple effect to help. Again, you heard time and time again how Black and brown communities are disproportionately impacted in all of these areas. And we can do something about that. The final one is outreach. Make sure that folks know where and how to access the closest and nearest food sources to them, pantries to them.
I'll pass this down, Alfreda. I just put a note that I think in terms of what we could ask you all to do is to respectfully mute the unproductive noise. So everyone has something that is important to them. that they lift up and they commit their time to. But pulling on my former union experience, when you're representing large numbers of people, sometimes the numbers don't add up. Somebody wants you to do a grievance, but you have to look at whether or not the grievance will do more harm or more good for the collective. And it doesn't always satisfy the person that wants, something done. But more and more increasingly, as we're looking at how to handle these issues, we've got more noise about something that is a pebble in an ocean and not the ocean. And so when you know that there are people that are complaining about things, and I can't stand a whiner. So if something is wrong, you don't have the floor. If something is wrong,
excuse me.
Then
excuse me. Yeah.
So if you know that you have a desire for something to be changed, what you should do is reach out and try and figure out and offer up suggestions for how to make the change.
So,
because when you do that, then you've got someone that may have the expertise that you don't have, but also may not be thinking about a solution that you may have. And then you're trying to figure out how to make it work together. So.
Is there anybody else want? Alfreda, thank you.
So we've kind of alluded to like the social drivers of health, but the one that right now that we're experiencing the most significant disparity in is civic engagement. How many people do you know vote? How many people do you know between the ages of 18 and 25 who vote? It is our responsibility to make sure that they understand how important it is to vote, because that is indeed where your voice is heard. That's the one thing. The other thing is when we think about our young Black and brown men who are growing up, apathetic, don't care, life's hard, may not live to be 25. How do you change that? How do you get them to understand their value? And so I always say, Sharine said, each one teach one. What I tell our folks in my department is each one has to reach one. Each of you have education, you have knowledge, but if you're not sharing, if you're not taking the time to share that, to encourage somebody else, to educate someone, then what that means is that we're going to just keep repeating the cycle. We're going to keep repeating the cycle. And the cycle has to end, and it has to end with us.
So
I think I'm the last one, right?
Actually, we're really, really tight, so make it short because we don't have much time left. I'd like to ask, I owe somebody a question. So
Yeah, I'll make it real quick because it's very important. We all need to take care of ourselves right now. We're all really stressed. Everyone is on edge. All this chaos is taking a toll on all of us. Our nervous systems are all dysregulated. We're all in hypervigilant mode. We all need to take, however we can, just find some time to do what brings you joy, all of us, everyone in this room. We often feel guilty because others are suffering right now, so we should, also suffer. If your oxygen mask is on and you're getting what you need, then you'll be better able to help the other person who needs help. So everyone take care of yourselves.
thank you. We don't have much time left for questions. And that to some degree was intentional, is because this particular panel is focused, we don't have candidates. It's not a forum or debate. It is designed to be informational, to really have a chance to learn about all these subject, these areas all under attack that impact so many lives and how they interrelate, to have it all in one place and discussing it all in one place. So, but I do have, I will take a few questions. Whenever I moderate a panel, I do make it very clear that we do not take questions from anyone, that all questions that we take have to be respectful and productive. And if you don't, if that doesn't happen, and like I said, I make this clear in all my panel, every panel I moderate, respectful and productive, or I will cut you off or just not, it won't happen. And I know you, and I know you will be respectful.
Yes.
Please, you've been having your hand raised for a while and wanted to.
A quick question. My husband and I donate a lot to Act Blue. Do you get funding from them, or are you independent of that? So,
Make it directly to a candidate. No.
so like, where would we donate that would impact everybody on the panel?
The individual organizations.
Yes, you.
I'm saying,
Specifically, food gatherers.
so
So I can update it. We did create a resource list encouraging people to support many of the organizations that are up here. I know Alpha House was on it, and I know the Meals on Wheels programs are. So I'll make sure we put that up again at the next meeting, and then we can make sure it gets included in the monthly newsletter. Because we're trying, I have often said that we need to stop only supporting candidates or the MDP every time they ask, and actually support the organization. So I'll make sure that gets added in our next newsletter.
I'm gonna ask. Letitia has had.
Good afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. I just want to first thank you for this panel and thank you for this information. This is really good stuff because in my world, I'm on the other side, and oftentimes we see folks that comes to the treasurer's office. I'm the county treasurer for those who do not know me. And by the time they get to my office, they've lost their homes or subject to lose their homes. But that's probably predicated on everything that you talked about here today. And I see a lot of familiar faces of things that I know you guys are doing wonderful, wonderful work. My question is there one resource that we can direct folks to, because oftentimes they just don't know where to go. And you have shared a lot of good information, but is there one resource that we can get to in the hands of folks? Thank you. And thank you again for this panel and all of your information.
So could I ask if you are talking about one resource to donate or one resource to send people or to get information?
One resource to send to people to get information, because I've heard education, I've heard housing, I've heard equity issues, all those things people have issue, and we can't help them on the other end because, to somebody's point here, if I'm hungry or I don't know where I'm going to be living tonight, I'm not paying taxes.
Go ahead, Annie.
Well, Caroline and I were having this conversation yesterday. Actually, 211 kind of has every resource. And then you can also call, like if you actually reached out to like our racial equity office or OCED, they would also be able to help with resources. And then we have our new Office of Aging that will be coming online. That way it's more specific to those issues. But for like somebody who's in a housing crisis, whether it's like you might get evicted or you're behind on your taxes, 211.
And we'll get that on the website and also the list of resources, okay? On the website, not only in the newsletter. Yeah, well, let's wrap the panel.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to give this to you, but I did again want to thank all the members of this panel. And again, I am honored to be here with all of you and to have helped facilitate this panel. And we will be sharing this out. We will have the video that we will share with all of you and we'll share with the community. Please encourage people to go to the website, WCDP website, where it will be posted. If they want, a lot of folks, it's cold, nasty Saturday morning and people are doing things or staying warm, but it is an opportunity to learn. There was also an excellent panel on housing and homelessness that I encourage people to watch. But do share this. Keep information. Knowledge is power. and it can help you make this, understand what we are facing in this county, what the people who are most in need are facing. So thank you all. Again, I wish we had more time. So, and I'll turn it over to Teresa.
And thank you, Kathy, Wyatt, for putting this panel together. And thank you, all of you. Somebody's calling my name. Somebody calling my name. Thank you, all of you, for being here and for your incredible, incredible work on, I know you're paid through the nose, right? Not. Thank you so, so much for all that you do. An announcement?
Teresa asked me earlier to make the announcement that a couple of days ago, our State Attorney General Dana Nessel put a form up on her website. We learned this at the Immigrant Town Hall yesterday, that anyone who sees ICE activity can submit a report right then, wherever you are. Now, I do know that nice matters. I also know emotions are running really, really high this election, and I personally believe everyone has a seat at the table.
Thank you, Larry. And you know what? Larry is a veteran, and I want to say that of the erasures that are happening right now, the erasures of the military service people, active and veteran, Black women especially, but Black people of color, other people of color, from our national information base about military service. Seriously? That is just, it is such an insult, but everything they do is.
Okay, thanks everyone. So I reserve this space every month so we can be here, and I have a few favors to ask. It's noon, so we're going to try to get everybody out of here by 12:30. If folks who are able could help us put all of the tables and chairs back to where they are supposed to be for the start of the week, that would be really helpful. We have maps that show where they go on this side of the room and on this side. But I also wanted to make sure to remind folks, just in the context of the increased ICE enforcement, there's two organizations that respond once somebody's been taken by ICE. And I think it's really important for people to know how to direct some of your interest in assisting. So Wicker has been around in Washtenaw County for a really long time. And as we think about focusing on children, when there's a crisis, once somebody's parent has been taken, they're on the ground responding and trying to help the family that's left behind once that individual is taken with the aftermath. That's the Washtenaw Interfaith Council for Immigrant Rights. And then MERC, they are actually the legal support for folks once they get detained. And so there are many ways to get involved with helping them. I would encourage you, if you're able, to support them financially, because that's where they're able to do the most with providing legal support, but also navigating the aftermath of being abducted by ICE. So just wanted to highlight those two organizations in addition to the MIRA and the AG form that now exists, and also ask nicely if you could help us put the room back together.
And the schools are doing a lot. Thank you, Jazz Parks. The schools are doing a lot too. And thank you, YCS also. All right, we got to stop, although it's really hard. WashtenaWDems.org. There, all this information is on WashtenaWDems.org, and you have to go there to join the party, okay? So you can fully participate in all of the ins and outs. Eli Nathans, last word.
Okay, I'll be very fast. I have some thank yous. This meeting wouldn't have happened without the help of Jim Russo, Andy Somerville, Norm Howe, Caroline Nathans, and for the banana bread every meeting is freshly baked Ray Ann Weymouth. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, everybody. Stay safe and warm and fed and engaged, and take care of yourselves.